Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Finding Financial Fitness Show. I'm your host, Nino Gonzalez, joined by my co host, Pei Chen, and a very special guest, Chris Bay from the Life Success and Legacy team. Chris, how's it going?
Really well, you guys. So good to be here and just to get to share this space with you. Pei and I were chatting a little bit earlier offline, just how fun it is to have an opportunity to connect and share what we've learned and share with other people as well. So thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
welcome,
absolutely.
welcome. We I've known Chris for a lot longer than you have, Nino. So I when you guys kind of hit it off, I was just so glad. You know how you want to expand your friend
Yes,
circle, right? You're
yes.
like, this is my best friend from this school, and then this is my other best friend from the other school. That's me. And then if when they hit it off, you're just like, yay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I felt that heart level connection with Nino. I shared with him. It was in a hallway at the Nelson Nash Institute think tank, and he shared some information with me that touched me emotionally. I was like, "Thank you for that. That's a gift. I carry that with me."
Yeah. No, Chris, you and the whole Life Success and Legacy team have just been such a wonderful addition to my life, but I know to all the clients that you've dealt with. A lot of your clients are a lot of our close friends, right? A lot of people that we've gotten to go on this journey with together. And we've been hinting so far in previous episodes about the infinite banking concept, about life insurance. And there's probably going to be people who, the moment they heard life insurance, they stopped our podcast and said, these guys are salesmen, right? And
That was
so,
me.
and it's interesting because now we're able to talk about, well, what is life insurance and what is the role it's playing in the infinite banking concept? So, Chris, tell us a little bit about what is life insurance and how can the life insurance strategy be used with the infinite banking concept, where it all came from. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So, infinite banking concept was the brainchild of a Southern gentleman named Nelson Nash, and he wrote a book called Becoming Your Own Banker. Nelson has since passed away, but he left with us an enduring legacy with his book, and he has several books. But Becoming Your Own Banker is a black book, and it really is kind of, we call it the Bible of infinite banking, and you'll hear us call it IBC. And it really is, it's not about investments. It's not even so much about the life insurance, because you could actually use the concept of infinite banking with a savings account or a
Mm.
401k or an IRA or other things. It's just Nelson Nash figured out in his own kind of financial journey and even crisis. If you read his book, there were some things that were falling apart in his life. And he discovered that he could manipulate the design of a whole life insurance policy to de-emphasize the death benefit and emphasize the cash value or the equity in it. And he could then use that to finance everything in his life, which could be debt, which at the time was for him. Um, it could be investments, it could be college education, it could be vacations, it could be a lot of different things. But it gives you pretty much full autonomy to finance your entire life and gain at least three uses of every dollar that you run through your banking system. So I was an example of someone who said, when I first heard whole life insurance, I was like, nay, this is a scam. Dave Ramsey says whole life insurance is the worst place to put your money. Um, so I was one of those people. I mean, my wife Sean and I, we researched this for 9 months skeptically before we pulled the trigger. But once it clicked in my head, I was off and running. Yeah.
That's funny because was the opposite of how
Well,
you
of
are.
course you were, Pay. You and my
Go
business
figure.
partner, Mike Everett,
I
every
literally,
relationship has the gas pedal and the brake. I just happen to be the brake.
and that's why I love you as my coach, right? Because I'm the go 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 person, and
Yeah.
having you guys, and we could talk about this whole, coaching experience and all that, but like that's what I need, right? Because of
Yeah.
because of my personality, I know if I don't have an anchor, I'll get in trouble. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So for your listeners, I'll try to simplify this down real quickly. Infinite banking uses a whole life insurance policy designed for the equity or the cash value and de-emphasize the death benefit. It really operates similar, almost like a home equity line of credit in some ways, as you're using the equity in your home as collateral. With a whole life insurance policy, you're actually using the equity, or the collateral is your death benefit.
Mhm.
So when what I do is I dump as much money in, we call them premium deposits, into our IBC policy. That builds up equity, and then I can take loans from the life insurance company using the equity inside my policy as collateral. And then I can take that loan and use it for whatever reason I want, no questions asked. And oh, by the way, and I love this part, they don't send me a monthly bill to pay back that loan. They don't care if I pay it back because it is collateralized by my death benefit. So let's just say I've got $1.8 million in death benefit, and I have borrowed $400,000 against it. The company doesn't care if I make payments on that $400,000. They'll simply subtract it from the 1.8 million when I die. And then my wife, who's my beneficiary, will get 1.4 in tax-free payout from the
Right,
life insurance
just
company.
like a home equity line of credit that, we use and leverage to invest with all the time, right?
Yeah,
And that beautiful part of that is the equity keeps growing if the system is designed properly.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I can borrow against my system, and I still have my policy because it's only used as collateral. It's over here still chugging along, doing its growth. And meanwhile, I'm using it to finance. So personally, we've used it to finance vehicles, 2 kids through college, investments, our income snowball. So we've used it for a variety of things.
It's
So
almost like
Chris,
infinite, the concept.
yeah,
Almost infinite.
infinite. So for someone who's thinking, okay, I work at a job and my employer has offered me life insurance. How can I turn my Transamerica or whatever life insurance company is being offered through their employer? Can I make that work with this infinite banking concept? And why or why not?
Well, in most cases, employers are going to be offering a term life insurance policy, at least in most of the cases that we see. And so, term, and for listeners that don't know the difference, I kind of describe term life insurance as almost like renting. You're renting a home or renting an apartment, you're not building any equity. Whereas whole life, you're actually building equity inside the policy. Have you seen, Nino, that companies that offer whole life policies through work?
No, I haven't. That's
Okay.
why I was asking, because I
Yeah.
remember when I first got into it, I was a W-2 employee, and
Mhm.
I was like, "Hey, I have a life insurance policy, right? That my employer, my super nice employer, who also gives me a 401k, gives me
Right.
my life insurance." And
Right.
so I thought, I remember that was my first question was, well, why can't I use this? And then I remember I had asked Mike Kwong, and he was the one that kind of gave me that answer. But I think it's a normal question that comes up because there is life insurance out there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, we at Life Success Legacy, I don't remember if we've released it yet, but probably by the time this is released, it will have been. Um, the question was asked. One of our clients was in her work environment, and one of her coworkers was asking her about IBC, and she's like, "Well, how much do you pay for your life insurance?" And our client told her, and the other gal's eyes got huge. She said, "You can get whole life insurance for way cheaper than that." And our client was like, because she's been well coached, right? She understands we don't see that premium as a bill. We see it as a deposit into our banking system that we can then leverage for using it in other ways.
Right.
So we always tell people, if you're looking for inexpensive insurance, IBC is not it's actually the most expensive life insurance you can buy if you just purely look at the premium amount, but it's for a different purpose. right? If it's for your banking system, wouldn't you want your deposits to be high rather than low? So
I think that's a lot of the misunderstanding
mhm,
on social media and whatnot, right? People kind of just scratch the surface of IBC because IBC is such a it's simple, but it's very complex at the same
Mm,
time, right? Um, and I think a lot of people don't want to really spend the time and energy to
mhm.
really understand what this thing is and what
Yeah.
it's about. Like they see a furry animal running across and they automatically want to call that a cat or a dog, right?
Do you guys
You just
remember when
assume.
we were at the Nelson Nash Institute think tank together and the two young men, they're teenagers,
mm,
and they stood up on stage and I thought they did one of the best jobs explaining IBC of anybody, of any of our presenters. Why? Because they made it simple.
right.
They said, well, we put money into our policy, and then when we want to buy something, we take a loan against it, we pay for it, and then we pay it our loan back.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's that easy. Yeah, it's like the one guy he admitted, yeah, I think I borrowed from my uncle. My first policy loan was for an Xbox.
Yep, I remember that. That's well, and that's such a great and powerful thing to be able to do that and to understand the mechanics. Chris, do you want to explain the four rules of Nelson Nash's principles? Because I think that that really is a good summary and emphasizes the importance of what the infinite banking concept can do.
Yeah, there's two pieces. I'm a simple thinking guy, right? I like simple rules, simple principles. And so there's two pieces that we reiterate in our coaching with our clients all the time, all the time. The first is, what are the four things that infinite banking can do? Number one is eliminate outside debt. So that's consumer debt that we owe somebody else. That's credit card debt, that's car loans, student loans, sometimes it's a mortgage, those kinds of things, business loans, etc. We typically start there, not always, depends on the client's goals, but we typically start addressing that outside debt because in Nelson's research, he found that the average American is losing about 34.5% of every dollar to the interest on their debt. 34.5% sounds high to people at first because they're thinking, my credit card's just like 22%. How do you get to 34.5%? Well, actually, Mike Kwong, one of our team members, wrote a book called Dibs on Your Money. He does a really great job of explaining the different kinds or the nature of debt. And
Mm,
amortized loans like mortgages and car loans, the banks are getting all their interest up front. So like in the first 5 years of a mortgage, you're losing probably 86% of your dollar to the interest on your debt, right? So when you look at that, or a car loan, over the life of a car loan, you're probably losing 21, 22% to interest, even though I've got a 4% rate.
mm.
And I'm really proud of that. And I'm telling everybody at work about it. But we're probably going to lose 22% over the life of the loan. So that's how you can get to 34.5% of every dollar going on to interest on your debt. So oftentimes we focus there because if we can take that outside debt that we're paying somebody else, and we turn that into what we call inside debt. Who owns the debt? We do now.
Right.
If we're honest bankers, shouldn't we continue to make those payments?
Mm-hmm.
And when we make those payments, who are we making those payments to?
Ourselves.
Ourselves. So now those payments that were going to somebody else that I could kiss goodbye, never see it again, I'm now making those payments to myself and getting to reuse that money. So that 34.5% that was going to someone else, it's now flowing to me that I get to reuse.
Mm,
That's what Nelson Nash would call changing the wind current. He was a pilot, and so he talks about wind currents and shifting that. So obviously we spend a lot of time focusing on eliminating outside debt, but that's just the first thing of four that IBC can do. The second piece is building your warehouse of wealth, is what Nelson, that's a title of his book. Really, that is capitalizing my IBC policies, building up the equity inside of it so I can use that and deploy it for all different kinds of reasons. Debt, investments, purchases, vacation, cars, whatever you want. Okay. That's the second piece. Many of our clients leverage their warehouse of wealth for the third item, which is passive income. Nelson always preferred the term passive income over retirement. He was still teaching and working in his 80s. He had purpose, right? He wanted to get this message out, and that's what kept him going with is that. So that passive income is money that flows to you that you don't have to work for, okay? And then the fourth thing is the tax-free wealth transfer. And that's simply that death benefit that goes to your beneficiaries. In most cases, it is tax-free. Most people don't have to worry about the taxes that happen with inheritance tax because that's a huge number. So those are the four things that IBC does. And I could talk about Nelson's principles too, unless you have something you want to say about those.
I was going to just say that that is actually very interesting because what attracted me at first, about 11, 12 years ago, to IBC was that first use, right? Was that debt elimination. I don't want to own credit card anymore, blah, blah, blah. But now it's interesting because we're at the stage of
Passive income. It's
two.
the ring finger for pay.
That's right. We're in the second and third, use of that, a system where we're actually buying out other people's debt, right?
Yeah.
So that is super cool. And I'm just thinking, for legacy piece too, later on, I can buy out my daughter's debt, and that's passive income to me. What an incredible journey in just 10
Hey,
years.
what you just said would have made Nelson Nash so proud because he believed that banking should happen at the you and me level. He was not a fan, and this is getting theoretical with Nelson. He was a well-read, scholarly man. He knew he had done his homework and he knew what he was talking about. And he subscribed to Austrian economics. Okay, so people can do their Googling and researching on that. But he was not in favor of the Federal Reserve. He was not in favor of fractional reserve banking, which basically says when I deposit $1 at the bank, they loan it out 10 times. That's why gas is going up. That's why milk goes up. It's inflation. So we are artificially inflating the dollar, right? Yeah. So by you buying other people's debt and keeping that banking at the you and me level, he would have been so proud.
I think I like how it's so, you mentioned those four, and I know you're not doing them in order because not necessarily people do it in that order, but it seems
Right.
to be the more we're going along, the more people we meet, they start off with saying, okay, I understand how this could work, right? And then you get into the first, like, wow, if you don't know what you don't know you're paying upwards of 34.5% in interest to somebody else. And you think, okay, well, I need to use this just to save that money. Then you realize we're paying IR, and where we like to share in this show is what we could do with that. Okay, now we have that money in, and maybe you've taken care of all of your liabilities. Well, now I want to go build passive income. But then people tend to forget when you get to your end of your life, as you naturally transition there, well, you have a death benefit for your family. And that's huge. That tax-free transfer of wealth is incredible. Even if you don't do anything in your lifetime, like Pay is, where she's able to take her daughter's mortgage. Well, when she passes away, what's going to happen? That's going to transfer also right back over into Jackie. So that's so powerful. I love those four, and I love how typically people make that progression from the first to the fourth. And so going on, you mentioned the principles of Nelson Nash. Could you touch a little bit on those, because those are huge?
They are. And as I mentioned, I like simple rules. And so Nelson's principles make it really easy for me. And honestly, we repeat, especially his first three principles, almost every single coaching session that I do, we refer back to these. So the number one is think long term. This is not a get rich quick deal. Okay. This is thinking generationally. Now, are there some who have leveraged their policies and they have built passive income rather quickly? Yeah, I think I'm talking to two of those right now, right? In fact, I'm reminded back in my school principal days, I had a phrase I used to say, I probably heard it someplace, I must hurry up and catch them for I'm their leader. It's like when you see your clients like catch you and surpass you and take it and run, it is a proud moment. You know, it's like, look at that. That's fantastic what they're doing with that. So it's super fun to celebrate that. So it's not a get rich quick scheme, you know, but it is about thinking long term. And, you know, both you and Pei talked about this. It is about generations. Okay. My 25-year-old, Lily, we signed over ownership to a policy that we've been building since 2011 for her. Why did we sign it over to her ownership? She learned IBC. She's demonstrated discipline, right? We had made loans to her. She paid them back. So once she showed she could manage it, we signed over ownership over to her. Now, do you think my 25-year-old wants her dad to be her coach? Shelly Forbes is her coach.
Of course. Of course.
So number one is think long term, and that is generational thinking. Okay. Number two is don't be afraid to capitalize your system generously. I'll share a personal story. As a school principal with a master's degree and 22 years of experience, I was making $80,000 a year gross. We started 4 policies on our family. Our cumulative annual premiums were $50,000.
Wow.
And we borrowed against our house to start those 4 policies. Now, the old Chris Bay thinking would go, no way. But once it clicked in my head, I realized I could put 50,000 in, and 2 weeks later I could pull out 30,000 and use it to go turn the wind current on debt, and then turn those payments back to my system and just keep going from there. So number 2 is don't be afraid to capitalize. Simple rule. If you want a little out of your system, put a little in. If you want a lot out of your system, put a lot in. Clients oftentimes say, well, what's the right size for me? And what we would say is we have clients who put $250 a month into their policies and premium deposits. And we have people who put in over $100,000 a year in premium deposits. And we will help you determine what that size is for you. We utilize some software we developed that helps us do that. So don't be afraid to capitalize your system generously. And then number 3 is the most important. That is, don't steal from your system. You
Don't
have
steal
to
the
be an
peas.
honest, don't steal the peas. You have to be an honest banker. People ask all the time, what's the risk with this? And we say, you are. The human problems is the problem, right? If we have a plan to set up and pay off debt, and instead of paying off those credit cards, you use your cash value loan and you go build a new deck on the back of your house instead, but you still have your credit card debt, you are the risk. That's a true story, actually, of what happened too. Yeah. We designed a plan for a couple and we had it all set up. We were going to turn the wind current on all these credit card debts, turn those payments their direction. Those payments would cover the second year premium. They wouldn't have to come up with any new money in the second year for their premium. Instead, they took a loan from their policy, and instead of paying off the credit cards, they went and built a new deck on the back of the house. Now, were we able to coach them out of that situation? We were, but it set them back a little bit.
But I think that also speaks to how resilient and flexible these systems are, right? With the right coaching and mentorship, it's something that's very forgiving. It's not like a typical you go down to the local bank. If you did that and you miss the payment, your credit is shot, right? Like late payment hit your credit hard, and then now your interest rate goes up. It's just cascade of side effects when that happens. Versus when you're your own bank, it gives you a little bit more flexibility, right?
Doesn't impact your
control.
credit score either. Say you miss a payment. Sean and I went to Belize in February. I mean, we didn't do this, but theoretically, we could have taken 2-3 months off of our loan repayments to our system and just use that money for the trip, right? Does anybody care if we skip a month or 2 in our payments to ourselves? No. It gives great flexibility and autonomy.
So, Chris, you've been mentioning something a lot as you've talked about the fundamentals, the foundation of IBC. You've been mentioning a lot coaching, the concept
Mm.
of coaching, and I don't know if any other companies really provide coaching when it comes to utilizing your infinite banking concept. So, could you touch on why you personally feel that coaching is so important and so integral to making the infinite banking concept truly work, and also the extent of what Life Success and Legacy as a company does and their view of the value of coaching?
Sure. I think probably the foundation of it comes twofold. One, everybody on our team was a client first. Nobody comes from a life insurance background or has a series license and was doing, financial consulting or anything. We all were clients and learned this ourselves from our coaches. Mike Everett was the founder of Life Success and Legacy, and he was our coach. Mike Everett was mentored by Nelson Nash. So, our tree, we're not far from the core of the tree, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so because we found so much value in that coaching, because this way of thinking is very different. Nelson would call all the other financial information out there noise. And it's very easy to lose focus and get attracted to the noise when that's all you're seeing, all you're hearing, and all your friends in your circle are talking about. If you don't have a community that is like-minded and supporting you in this thinking, it's very easy to get pulled away. In our boot camps, we use the analogy of tractor ruts. Tractor ruts in our brains, it's like the connections between our brains, right? And between
Mm-hmm.
our brain. And over time, hearing the same message over and over, those ruts get deep. It can be difficult to get out of those ruts, right? IBC is asking people to come out of those ruts, that noise that we hear, and consider a different way. If we don't have like-minded community to keep us focused, we can easily get pulled right back into those ruts. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason the coaching is so important for us is, I mean, I'll take some ownership on this. I come from an education background, and Mike Kwong on our team comes from an education background, and we love to teach, and we love to support people and implement this. And so we basically based our business model on, there's a concept in a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins. It was based on some research. They studied Fortune 500 companies. Why Fortune 500 companies? Because that's where you can get the data, is on businesses that size. They didn't study mom and pop businesses because you can't get data. But what they did is they studied these businesses that were able to continue to outperform their competition, even through change in leadership. So it wasn't just based on this gregarious, outgoing, powerful leader, and then when that leader left, the business fell off. It surpassed, it went through that change in leadership and still outperformed the competition. And one of the principles they included in they discovered in their research and wrote about it in the book, is a concept called the hedgehog concept. And so the hedgehog concept is, the fox is very cunning. And the fox does all different kinds of approaches to capture that hedgehog. The hedgehog does one thing really well: it rolls up in a ball and protects itself. So the hedgehog concept has three elements to it. And we really talked and thought about, for Life Success and Legacy, what is that going to be for us? And it's not so much that you think about it and design it that way. It's more of a discovery, like, who are we?
Mm.
What are we naturally inclined to do? One is, what are you passionate about? We are incredibly passionate about inspiring financial hope and freedom for people. That drives us. We love it. It gets us out of bed in the morning. It's why I'll do 5 Zoom meetings with clients, or doing consultations with people, because that excites me, right? So the first question is, what can you be? What are you passionate about? A second question is, what can you be the best in the world at? And as we look out at other financial organizations, are there smarter people? Do they have better systems? Do they have better software? You know, all these different things, probably. I mean, we're just a little bitty, you know, team of 6, right? But what we can be the best in the world in is the relationship and the ongoing coaching and the education. We got some really fantastic educators on our team that can teach this concept and break it down simply for people. And then we love to partner with them going forward. So we discovered that that was what we can be the best in the world at. The third and final element of that is a financial or a profit part of it. And it is, what is your economic engine? For us, it is, and they define it as profit per X. What is that X? And for us, it is profit per client. But I want to put a spin on that, because you might think it is profit per client visit, purchase. And that is not it for us. For us, it is profit per client over the life and generations of that client. So if it is that our clients typically start multiple policies over time, that's where the profit is that ongoing relationship. And then them understanding, we don't have to reteach them. Oftentimes they're coming to us saying, when can I start my next policy? We don't have to do any reteaching or anything. We're just like, okay, well, let's look at your plan. What size do you want to start with? You know, blah, blah, blah. And we're off and running. So that profit per X was really important. And you can see the connection to the coaching piece with that. If you're just signing them up for a big old policy and then, like most life insurance people, saying, see you later, you're not getting that client back, right? I've got 10 policies. Mike Everett's got about 20 policies. Nelson Nash had 49 policies. So most of our clients are not one and done clients. They are starting a system of policies to give them the capacity to do all the things they want to do in their life financially.
And actually, you know, being a client of yours first and foremost, what I love about working with you guys really was that I didn't feel like you were just like a coach. Like, hey, here's the plan. Go, you know, check back in, you know, 6 months later. I felt like you guys really took an active interest in me as a person, in my family, and that you guys are kind of a mentor. Like, I go to you guys for other things other than IBC, right? And I know that, you know, even now that Mike is a coach himself, like he hears about people's, you know, family stuff and very personal level,
Yeah.
you know, and because I kind of assist, you know, I'm like the, you know, basketball court, I'm the assist. I don't make the goal. I assist, right, in the game. Um, I I get to know, you know, you guys' client on a level that I don't think any other, you know, agencies get to enjoy. I use that word enjoy because I love it.
Well, and I think,
feel
Pei, what's so impactful with that, and that's something that, and this is why we wanted to have Chris on. And Chris, we're going to bring you back because we want to know about your personal story. And right now we're talking just the introduction to IBC because we've been hinting at it for so long. But what we value is, and what we like to talk about on this podcast is the bigger picture, and is using different tools to get to your ultimate goal. But it's being able to ask the why of why is that your ultimate goal, and what is your ultimate goal. And I think what Pei's alluding to with yourself and with the whole Life Success and Legacy team is you guys see that picture, right? You see that picture and you see it through that lens, and you use IBC to help that person get to their goal. And it's not sales driven. It's not every single person needs to get a $25,000 policy because we need to meet that quota in order to be the best company. No, it's what policy, if a policy, I'm assuming you would always say a policy would be right for somebody, but even if it wasn't, you would be able to sit down with them and tell them how could it fit and at what size, what's best for you to ultimately feel really comfortable, and making sure that you also, like, we know as Life Success and Legacy that this policy is going to change your life, but do you know it? And that's where I think is so powerful, which brings me to the point of, okay, so people are listening and they hear and they think, well, this seems really good. I really like Chris. I don't necessarily understand fully the IBC concept, but maybe they're wanting to do a little bit more research. Where would you guide people to go learn a little bit more about the infinite banking concept?
Yeah. So we've been very intentional. We see ourselves as an educational organization. And so as an educator, I know there's different learning styles. And so our website is probably the best place to start. And then from there, you can find a variety of different learning styles that maybe match for you. It's lifesuccesslegacy.com. We have our own podcast that we started back in 2016, which I can't believe we've been talking that much for that long. But for some people, and that's really the only marketing we do. We don't do anything else. um, it really has become how people find us. And I also want to say we're not looking to be huge. It's truly, we are selective in the people that we work with. Not that we won't work with people, but we say you've got to be willing to put some skin in the game and meet us halfway. If you'll meet us halfway, we will lock arms with you and we'll go all the way with you. But if you want us to spoon feed it to you, um, we have found that that doesn't work well for the client's success. Okay. We are totally committed to the coaching, but we want to see that the people are willing to put some skin in the game. So our podcast is really a great place for start for people who are auditory. It's YouTube. You can watch it as well. Um, we have several books available. We have Nelson Nash's Becoming Your Own Banker, his Warehouse of Wealth. There's a variety of his books. Mike Kwong on our team has written a book that I think is fantastic personally as an educator for if you don't feel like you have a very developed financial literacy. I think Mike's book is fantastic. He wrote it for their daughter, Jackie, right, Pay?
Yep.
And so he broke it down and he really walks people through financial literacy and teaching them about the types of loans and different things like that. He introduces infinite banking. He gets into the income snowball, and the title of the book is Dibs on Your Money, right? I use Dibs a lot with our clients who are ready to start learning about passive income. I wrote a book specifically not technical. It's a parable, it's a story. And if you can't read it in less than an hour and a half, it's maybe because I put you to sleep in the book because it's not long, but it's a story about how a family can build a system, a family banking system. It's called Family Banking with Purpose. And what was interesting, Nino, our friend Sharon Smith uses my book a lot in Hawaii because of the oral tradition.
Mm,
They
okay.
learn, many of the people there learn from the story more than the technical books, which was just fascinating to me.
Oh
We
yeah, that's
have
the
on
top
our
story.
website, we have a learning kit. So if you prefer to just kind of do your own thing and learn on your own, we have a learning kit. Um, we recommend people do a webinar, which Mike Everett typically does that live about twice a month on a Monday night. And that's kind of an introduction to becoming your own banker. It's about 70, 80 minutes long. Our boot camp is intense. It's 3 hours. And we would not recommend someone just sign up for the boot camp without doing some pre-learning. That would be like taking calculus and you don't know your math facts yet. Okay. The boot camp, about an hour and a half of it is presentation, teaching the concept. And then about an hour to an hour and a half is just simply Q&A from the people who participate. Most of those we do now Zoom. Occasionally we do them in person. You hosted one down in Houston, you and Mike did, which was a blast. But we've had a lot of clients spread across the United States who are like, can you please do it online so we can participate? So Zoom really kind of took off. So our website has a ton of places for people to kind of tap into their learning style. And then we love doing consultations with people. We'd love for them to do a little pre-learning.
Hmm.
But then one of my very favorite things to do is a consultation because I get to know the people, find out about what their goals are. And then eventually they will do what we call a dream conversation.
What I love, all that resources that you mentioned, except for, you have to buy the books, but it's all free. Like the
Mhm.
Yep.
time that, one can spend on this is infinite, but you can really, get all these resources without spending a dollar, right?
Right.
It's free education. It's for your mind. It's feed your mind. But I like to say that Nelson's book, right, the Black Book, that is the what. What is IBC? It's a
Mhm.
mandatory reading. I think like if you don't even read this 92-page book, then
It's my old
you're
beat up book. Torn
Clearly have
corners,
used
got
it.
papers
right.
sticking out of it.
So that is the what. And then your Mike's, Mike Kwong's book, that's more of a how. Like he gets into more like how to use this thing. And
Mhm.
then your book, Chris, I always refer it as the why, because I
Mhm.
think that gives people that fundamental of why do I even want to learn this?
Yeah.
Why is that important for my family? So I
Mhm.
really love that trio, the little package that you guys have there. I don't think it was intentional. It was completely just an accidental
Yeah.
pairings,
Yeah.
so
That's
Yeah.
those are all just such incredible resources, and I think just bringing it all home. I what we really aim to do with this show was to we have hinted Pei and I on this show about IBC and the concept and how we potentially can use it in our strategies. And we wanted to bring somebody on in Chris who has experience coming from a just a normal person, a normal guy, a school teacher, school
Yeah.
principal who can take this concept and make it something great and now share it with other people. So we hope you at least as an audience were able to get some sort of introduction to what infinite banking concept is, how it effectively uses life insurance, summing up the Nelson Nash's principles, which I think are very important. I think just having them as a reminder just for your daily life is so important. And then talking about different ways to get signed up, to learn more about it and what the uniqueness of life success and legacy provides, both for, again, like we've talked about in this show before, we're not talking about products, services, companies that Pei and I haven't personally used, because we want to make sure that whatever we recommend, we have vetted it and we are currently doing it ourselves. And like Pei mentioned, we've built such a great friendship with everybody at Life Success and Legacy, and it's because of the personalities and the willingness to talk to everybody. And so the thing that I can just say is at least open your mind to learning it. Pick up these books, and like Chris said, these books are not the becoming your own banker can get a little bit intense if you're
Mhm.
make sure you're sitting down, you got a cup of coffee, and you're ready to go because your mind will be blown. Same thing with Mike's book, but I think just starting with listening to some of the podcasts, listening, going to see some of the resources that the Life Success and Legacy team has out there, I think is a great place to start and ultimately set up a consultation. I know for me personally, I heard about it in person. And when I hear things in person from anybody about a diet or about investment, I'm always skeptical. I'm always like, well, what's the catch? What do they have? What are they trying to get out of it? But then when I picked up the resources and learned about it myself, my interest was piqued. Then I set up a
Mhm.
consultation, and Chris and Mike and everybody was able to explain to me what it is. Then my mind, I was like, okay, I understand this. And then it was, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
let's absolutely go. Let's use this because I bought into it. And I think that people naturally have that trajectory because the team is so willing to help. So Chris, it's been an honor to have you on. Man, I think just as a coach, you've impacted all of us. So, and I know our audience members know who you are. Some of them will know who you are, and you've impacted a lot of us. And I'm excited to see who else you're going to impact. And on a personal level, I know that I've personally learned a lot from you. I know Pei has shared some great stories. So we look forward to having you back on to share more about your
Mhm.
personal journey, both with IBC, but just in life, because I think your journey sums up so well what our podcast is aiming to do when we talk about our why. So, Chris, it's been great, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank you,
guys.
Chris.
It's been a lot of fun. I do think I love what you guys are doing with expanding it just beyond just finances and about the health and the fitness, etc. because those are really important pieces that go into this. So I'm super happy that you guys are taking this and kind of creating your own pathway, your own laneway to help people and support them. So, and I know you guys' hearts are in the right place. So kudos to you guys. Thank you for doing the work you're doing.
Well, we got great mentorship, right? So
And there you go.
There you go.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
thank you everybody for tuning in. Stay tuned for our next episodes where we'll be diving into more concepts, and we look forward to seeing you soon.